Hi, welcome to another episode of Luncheonette with Lora Diaz. That's me, and I'm very excited to present to you today Angelica Norton. She's going to be talking to us about poverty and the effects that has on removals and the biological families we work with. And she's the architect of a program called the Poverty Experience that I was so lucky to participate in, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. But first, we have a few announcements I'd like to share with you, and then we'll get started. We have recently posted a video on our website at www.jitfl.com, and that's for Just in Time Florida, on the effects of trauma on young children. This is from an expert on the subject, so I hope you get the opportunity to take a look and watch that video because it's got some wonderful information there. Also, we've recently posted one of our older videos from 2010 on pool safety because we were getting a lot of requests. But here's the great news. We are doing a new, updated pool and water safety video with Jeff Dawson, who did this one for us and was gracious enough to do a new one. And so we're going to be posting that soon. We'll be sending an invitation for the live webcast and then posting that on the website too. So it's going to be a great resource for you for pool and water safety class. Okay. And last but not least, I want to let you know, to save the date, we've got the upcoming Child Protection Summit coming to Orlando. It's going to be at the Peabody Hotel with the little ducks. I know you're all excited to go there. And that is actually August the 28th through the 30th. And we hope to see all of you there because there's great information, wonderful workshops and speakers. So it's a great way to get a lot of additional education. And so we are ready to go to Angelica and talk to her a little bit about the poverty experience and, you know, her experiences in dealing with foster parents and biological families and just people who deal every day with poverty. So welcome, Angelica.
Thank you. Thank you.
So can you share a little bit about your experience, the poverty experience and the program that you do with our viewers, and let them know, kind of what we need to know to help us deal with our families better?
Okay. The poverty experience is it's an actual simulation where the participants come in and take on the life of families who are experiencing or in poverty, so to speak. And you may take on a family who is going through an eviction, going through a divorce, born in generational poverty. The scenarios are completely different, and you just don't know what you'll get. But the experience itself is to bring awareness as well as help people develop empathy towards individuals who are experiencing poverty.
Well, as foster parents, I know sometimes we get children placed into our home and we're dealing with the families and their case plans, and sometimes it may be difficult for us to understand some of the challenges that they're going through. So maybe you can kind of give us some idea of maybe some of those challenges that they face and how it affects them doing their case plan and us working with their children in our home.
Well, one of the things that I would like to shed light on is that my definition of poverty is it's grieving. That's how I define poverty. I was brought up in generational poverty myself, and I lived in different homes. I was not in foster care, but we had a church, and when times were hard for my family, the older siblings would be placed with a different family just to ensure that we were making it to school or if our lights were out and things of that nature. So one of the things I want to help you better understand is the weight that children feel. A lot of people think about the parents, but the children themselves go through a lot. They go through the mental, the emotional, as well as the spiritual or relational issues that surrounds them with poverty. So the kids are coming in with all of that weight, and they're coming in with the fear, the frustration, the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment. So it can be a lot. It can be a lot on the children. So you may see them act out externally what they're experiencing internally.
Well, that's a good point to bring up because sometimes we're focusing, like you said, on the family themselves and the challenges, but not thinking about how that is actually affecting the behaviors of the child in our home. You know, one of the things that I've seen, Angelica, and it's been a concern of mine as a foster parent, is the fear of the pressure that I'm putting on the biological family because they think, if a foster child's put in a home like a middle class home or an upper middle class home or whatever the situation, and then that biological family's coming from a poverty situation, is like, oh, the fear that the children are going to be happier at the foster parent because they're so focused on those material possessions and, you know, and the things, and they think, oh, I can't provide, and how that could potentially hinder the relationship between the biological family and the foster family, and also, you know, their relationship with the children. What would you say to help them bridge that?
There's a major guilt trip for the biological parents when a lot of their children are placed in foster care and they're going to what you say considered a middle class or upper middle class family, because they're looking at the fact of what I cannot provide. And then that alone brings that guilt, that shame, that embarrassment, and it's a constant reminder to them that they did something wrong opposed to them doing something right. And another thing for the parents as well is when you're in poverty, and I'm not sure of all the requirements when you're referring to their caseload, but I know there are classes and I know there are things that has to be done in order for them to get their children back. And I remember talking to a young lady, and she said that she had to go to parenting classes and things of that nature, and transportation is always an issue when it comes to poverty. Whether it's catching the bus, it costs money to catch the bus. Some people would say, you know, catch a cab. That costs money to catch a cab, you know, and then when they miss their appointments or miss their scheduled requirements, it looks as if they don't want their children back, or, you know, you're not complying to what we ask of you. And it kind of sends them on a mental and an emotional roller coaster. Really, it really does.
It's easy for them to feel defeated. I know one of the things that was brought up in your experience was, and I hadn't even thought of this, was how frequently now you have to complete job applications online. And so a lot of these families don't have a computer in the home, and then, like you said, then the transportation issue comes in, so I've got to go down to the library and I've got to wait, and I can see how sometimes the list of tasks coupled with the fact that you don't have the money and you don't have the transportation can become very daunting.
It really can. One of the things that we all say poverty, and when we think of poverty, we think of financial issues or the financial strain. But then when you think about poverty in a deeper manner, you're thinking about being impoverished from affection, from being impoverished from love, from being impoverished of hope. And all of those things are necessary in order to raise a child successfully in the world. And if you look at the child, if the child is lacking in all these areas, they're feeling impoverished in all of those areas, and then the parent herself or himself were or is impoverished in all of those areas, who steps in to teach or bring forth these things so that the impartation can transfer to the child who really needs it? So it's really complex. In its simplest form, poverty is complex.
It is, and another thing that you just reminded me of is a lot of times these families, they live in poverty areas, so it tends to become like a big cycle, part of a bigger system where, you know, the neighbors and the whole neighborhood would be that way, and a lot of them just don't have supports to get out of that, you know, and that's why I think sometimes the foster family becoming a support, an extended support to that biological family could be such an important part of their, you know, getting out of that cycle and being able to help them to complete that case plan.
I see foster parents as opportunities because those that are in poverty, and especially generational poverty, they're not exposed to the most important resource there is, and that's mentoring and role models. And that's very important. In order to find anyone who successfully escaped the grasp of poverty, you'll find that there was major and very important relationships, whether it was a pastor, a teacher, a grandmother, a next door neighbor. relationships are very important when you're working with children who are in poverty. So foster parents have an amazing opportunity as well as responsibility as being the parental piece at that time for however long the child is in your care, but the opportunity to expose this child to so many things that he or she may never get a chance to experience.
That's a good point, because a lot of times when the children come into our home, I know for me personally, and I'm sure many of you out there, you know, we get a child who's never had the opportunity to go to Disney World or to go, you know, even to some very, very basic things. I remember I had a foster child once that had never been to a movie theater. So you're right, exposing them and then also showing them, you know, that you can become successful. You can, you know, giving them that encouragement and showing them sometimes the path where maybe sometimes they feel at home they can't get there because, like you said, sometimes that generational poverty and the lack of the mentors and other people who can give them that positive, like, you can do this and you know, overcome. So that's a very good point.
Affirmations, people underestimate affirmations, but that's exposure as well. Like you said, you can do it. A good morning, I love you. I believe you can do anything today. A lot of children don't hear that almost ever, and then some don't hear it enough. They constantly hear what they have done wrong or what their parents are not doing right. So sometimes just that encouragement to say, you know what, you're loved today and you're beautiful today, and I believe you're going to have an awesome day. I believe you can do anything. Trust me, it goes a long way with them.
And us as foster parents trying to teach the families to give those affirmations, to say, I get it, I know it's hard because you're in this position right now, and give them positive affirmation as well, and then help them to impart that on their children. You know, when you're together and you're maybe supervising a visit, is, you know, don't dwell on the negatives with them and let them know that, hey, you know, I'm working on this, I believe I can overcome. You know.
Absolutely. And actually, when the children are experiencing something so positive, I believe children can teach parents. I honestly believe that. I'm a mother of 3, and coming up in generational poverty, like I shared yesterday when I was speaking at the AND conference, I'm the first in my family to graduate all 3 of my children and send them off to college. And I also said it was not easy. It was not easy. It took a lot of sacrifice. But what I did not know, I had to seek out. And parents are afraid when you're in poverty to seek out help. And the resources may not knock on your front door. They may not be laying there in a newspaper article or in a magazine, or, you know, thrown in the morning with your Sunday paper. You may need to say, hey, I need help, and I want something better for not only my life, but for my children's life. Can you help me? And you'll be surprised how many people will be more than willing to assist with their journey to self-sufficiency.
Wow. I know that was very powerful when I was in your experience and you were talking about that, and you were actually giving a description of a young woman who had grown up, and that was very, very powerful, I think, for people to see that, yes, you know, you can overcome this, and what a difference, you know, reaching out, learning the resources, having some supports can make.
And one of the reasons I do that, I disclose pieces of my life because I think as a presenter, it's important to not just come with the basic knowledge and information and statistics, but to come with a little bit of you, a little bit of the realness of what you're speaking on. And at first it was not easy to disclose the pieces of my childhood, but then I knew that it would be beneficial to those who really don't understand poverty. And as you can see, everyone in my second session yesterday, one of the ladies said she's turning tricks. Someone else said this young lady is a prostitute. You know, and then you just step into the mind of how people really see individuals who are raised in poverty. And it's not a bad thing. They're just being completely honest with their perception or their thoughts of where a person may end
their
up.
perception is that they get stuck in that and it spirals down.
Absolutely.
And instead you have the story of a success, someone who lived in that and can come out. And I think that we as foster parents really hang on to and celebrate successes, and that's one of the reasons we do what we do, is because we want to see positive outcomes for children and families. And I believe that most foster parents out there just really want to celebrate those stories of reunifications and successes, and that biological parent who's able to, get a job and get back on their feet and overcome things most of the time which was brought on by their past traumas and things that have happened to them. So it's exciting to be able to hear that, yes, we overcame this situation.
Absolutely. One of the things I always say when I leave, I go into Pinellas County Jail and I work with youth offenders. So whenever I leave, I always end with this, I don't have to know you to love you, but I love what I do, so therefore I love you. As foster parents, it kind of connects with what you do. It's like, I don't have to know you to love you, but I love what I do, and there's a reason for why I'm doing what I do, so therefore I love you. And I think the biggest thing that foster parents can do for any children who are coming through their system or through their doors is make sure that they feel that love and that commitment, that dedication to whatever foster parent means to them, because it means something to everyone differently, I believe, because I've trained different foster care parents coming in. I know at one point here in Hillsborough County, they were struggling to place teenage girls in foster homes. No one wanted to deal with the attitudes and all
the
that
drama
and all those things that comes with that. So as they were bringing in new foster parents through the MAP program, they would ask me to come in and speak with them on how to better communicate with at-risk young ladies who are being fostered, coming through the foster program. So it's a very complex issue, and no one has all the answers. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I do know that love, affirmations, communication, all of those things are very important, very important.
Well, one of the things that I thought would be important to kind of convey is I know that we as foster parents sometimes get frustrated because we're taking care of often our own families, we have our own jobs, and then now with more requirements, more kids in the system, and we're trying to supervise those visits, and sometimes it's like, okay, they want me to drive 30 miles to go supervise a visit, and why can't the parent? They lost the child. And what I was trying to get at with this is really understanding, us trying to understand what that family is going through, especially a family who is in poverty. And even though they may want to do that visit, some of the challenges, so that we can work better with them and understand, just be a little bit more understanding to that.
Because believe it or not, when you step in a room and you're sitting with someone, you can automatically feel, a vibe from an individual. Parents and children are the exact same way. If you're feeling negative, or they're going to feel the negativity. If you're being positive about the drive, the visit, the visitation, they're going to feel the positive. So it's whatever you give off. It's like a vibe that, again, imparts into the child and then imparts into the families or the mother or the father in which the children are going to visit. So it's really all about the foster parents, and I don't want to really put too much weight or back on you guys, but I applaud you, hands down. I totally applaud you. My children are 20, 21, and 22. It was like raising triplets, but it is what it is, and I was a teen mom. So I understand the struggle. I never lost my children. I took full responsibility for raising my children, but that came with a strong mindset. And I'm not pointing blame on young mothers who become teen mothers and their children end up in the system. I'm just saying that somewhere they may have fell short, but they can regain what's missing and get their lives and their children back on track. I believe in that wholeheartedly. They just need the resources. They need the positive affirmations. They need the support. They need the guidance. They actually need the knowledge, because knowledge is everything. Knowledge is what turns into what you do. So without that, they're lost.
I couldn't agree more, and it is very challenging for them, and I can see how sometimes they would want to give up hope. It's scary going to court, and it's so frustrating when your child's removed, but you know, we can be a lifeline for them, like you said, through positive affirmations, but also helping guide them, direct them into some of these resources, and then, like you said, supporting through doing what we can to make positive visits, and so they don't go home and feel discouraged and say, I should just give up, my child's in a better home anyway, because that's what we don't want them to do, because really this is about restoring families. Like you said, breaking these generational situations that just keep going on and on. So is there anything else that you would want to share with foster parents as far as, you know, as far as dealing with people who are right now experiencing poverty and all the stresses of getting jobs and transportation and everything else?
One of the things that I would suggest to you is to always be open. And when I refer to being open, it's just being open to the truth. A lot of times people close themselves up to the truth, and they want to believe what they want to believe. Because when you come up with what you want to believe, you don't allow the truth in. And that's just hands down how things are. And a lot of times people come in and they say, I had transportation issues, or I couldn't finish this because I had to do this, and everyone kind of turn it back into, you're not trying to do the right thing. But you have to be open. You have to be open to hearing the truth. I'm not saying everyone's going to do this, or everyone's going to tell you a lie, or everyone's going to try and abuse the good thing that's happening to their children, which is you. You are the good thing in their child's life, hands down. But there are some who are really trying and who are really dealing with financial issues, emotional issues. Poverty links itself to everything. Unwanted pregnancies, HIV, mental health, substance abuse. Poverty is what I call a magnet. It can attach itself to anything, anybody, any race, any color at any time. And as long as you remain open to that, you will actually be able to meet the needs of not only the children, but the needs of whatever your definition and responsibility of a foster parent is. Because again, everyone has a different definition.
Well, changing families and changing communities, hopefully. Absolutely. I mean, it's a bigger picture than just the one child. I think, I see it that it could be, you could make a huge difference.
You can. One child can go back home and be reconnected with their siblings as well as their family and go, I learned this. I was experienced to this with her. She told me this. And they bring that with them. So not only did they bring a bag to your house, but they're going to leave with that bag and then something in their heart and something in their mind. So when they go back home, they're going to not only unpack that bag, but they're going to unpack what you put here and what you put here. And it's a beautiful thing, and you may not ever get to see the results of your effort, but just know by you being open to the truth that the work that you've done will manifest in those children's lives.
I completely believe that. And then that same parent could see something happening to another mom in her neighborhood and say, you know what, I went through this, and walk alongside her and say, I was on this path and I can help you. And again, starting to, build those support systems and support one another and just be another person's mentor after having gone through it themselves.
Absolutely. You will become a resource for some of these children as well as their families. As soon as they build that relationship with you and they trust you, they will come to you before they go to anyone else. And that's really important. I get phone calls all the time in the, oh God awful times at night. And it's just someone, because I worked with their child in the jail and she feels she had no one else to turn to. What's the best thing for me to do, Miss Angie? What is the best thing? And you become a resource. Not that you have all the answers, but I'm willing to go in search of what you may need or connect you to an individual who can help it. Absolutely.
Sometimes just to like, I don't know, you're my lifeline to finding the answer.
Absolutely.
You may not have it, but finding the answer.
Absolutely. And judgment is not present.
Right.
And you can sense judgment. Judgment is like the elephant in the room. And people tell me all the time, I don't go there because they're judging me. I say, well, did they say anything? No.
They just rolled their eyes.
Yeah,
Or
they just roll their eyes and they do things of that nature. So, but they feel like they're always being judged. It's as if I was evicted is written across my chest. I lost my children is written across my forehead. I'm a bad mom is the sleeve to my shirt. Or I'll never amount to anything is the other sleeve to my shirt. This is the life and this is as good as it gets is the pants that I wear. And they believe that people can see this and detect these things about them. They honestly believe that. And it's the farthest thing from the truth. You just have to get them to believe that it's the farthest thing from the truth.
Right, they just have to see success written all over them.
Absolutely. They actually have to, wear a new label. That's what it is, wearing a new label.
Well, I want to let all of our viewers know that Angelica has provided us the manual to her poverty experience, and we're going to have that posted right here. And you can contact her. Her email address is on here as well. And if anybody out there is interested in participating in the poverty experience or has any questions about her program that she puts on, feel free to contact her. You want to add anything to that for our viewers?
Okay, the poverty experience, again, is taking on the life of individuals who are experiencing poverty. It's excellent for case managers, educators, CEOs, vice presidents. It's really great for anybody who are working with at-risk youth and their families. At this point, we've serviced over 75 to 100 agencies, organizations, and over 1,500 people have attended. The AND conference itself this week was a little over 400. So it's an amazing experience, and trust me, you're going to walk away with an experience.
And you're going to be doing this presentation in the Independent Living Conference also,
Absolutely.
Right? So any of those of you who will be attending that can certainly participate in this there.
Yep, they can.
Okay.
And I'll see you there.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Angelica, for joining us. And I hope you all have learned something, and this has been a little bit of an enlightenment about the families and the children that we deal with that have come from poverty situations. I know it was definitely eye-opening to me and helping me to understand what a difference that we can make in these people's lives. So I appreciate all this valuable information, and I encourage you to look at the resources that Angelica has shared with us. So thanks again to all of you who have tuned in. Don't forget, this show is for you. We are here for your journey in foster parenting, and we want your feedback. We want your suggestions for topics, for questions for our viewers. We put it out there every week who our next episode is going to be with us. So keep watching our Facebook page. We're going to post the link here, or email us, and we look forward to hearing from you and just being able to get answers to the questions that you may have, or just show those topics that that are important in your life. So thanks again, and have a wonderful week.